afternoon, Detroit, and welcome to Urban Review. This show is brought to you by the Coalition for Urban Youth and Family Development and the Center for Urban Youth and Family Development, and is sponsored by the Office of National Drug Control Policy. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the thoughts and the opinions of the Office of National Drug Control Policy or the White House. Thank you for tuning into our show today, and we have a few exciting things to talk about. The first thing that I want to share with you is that today, November the 21st, 2019, is the 44th Annual Great American Smokeout, sponsored by the American Cancer Society. It is an annual event that encourages smokers to make a plan to quit smoking. For more than 50 years, since the first Surgeon General's report on health consequences of smoking, cigarette smoking among U.S. adults has declined by approximately two-thirds. A report in this issue of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report reveals that that 13.7% of U.S. adults were current cigarette smokers. But that is the lowest percentage of recorded smokers since the monitoring began in 1965. However, the report also found that there are 34.2 million adults that still smoke cigarettes, and marked disparities in tobacco use persist across the population. Smoking remains to be the leading preventable cause of disease, disability, and death in the United States. However, smokers can and do quit smoking, and today there are more former smokers than there are current smokers. Among U.S. adult smokers, nearly 70% want to quit smoking, and about two-thirds of them have actually made attempts to quit smoking in the past 2 or 3 years. Using counseling and medication increases the chances of quitting. So if you want support for quitting smoking, it's available at 800-QUIT-NOW. That's 800-784-8669. That's 800-784-8669, 800-QUIT-NOW. So let's all throw away our cigarettes and kick butts today on November 21st, 2019, the 44th Annual Great American Smokeout, sponsored by the American Cancer Society. And while we're talking about smoking, let's transition from tobacco to marijuana. In the fall of 2018, Michigan voters approved the Recreational Marijuana, or otherwise referred to as the Adult Use Marijuana Act. The Michigan Prevention Association, in conjunction with the Center for Urban Youth and Family Development and the Coalition for Urban Youth and Family Development, and a number of other coalitions, substance abuse prevention coalitions across the state of Michigan, have developed a group of concerns and recommendations to limit the harm that is related to health and safety of our youth and our communities as it relates to the use of marijuana. First of all, I'll list out our areas of concern. There, first of all, has been a significant increase in the marijuana potency over time. The marijuana today is not the marijuana of the 1960s and 70s that many of our older adults tried during their collegiate experience. Marijuana today is a much more potent drug now than in years in the past. Today, averaging 7 to 3 times more stronger than in the 1980s. Some samples of marijuana extracts have an 80 to 90% THC level, and that is based on information that we have gained from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. And some of the negative effects of high potency THC, the risk of physical dependency, addiction, and other negative consequences increase with exposure to high concentrations of THC, and the younger the age of the initiation. Higher doses of THC are more likely to produce anxiety, agitation, paranoia, and psychosis. Edible marijuana takes time to absorb and produce its effects, increasing the risk of unintentional overdose as well as accidental ingestion by children and adolescents. And that's according to the U.S. Surgeon General's advisory report from 2019. Another risk factor is that youth are more susceptible to marijuana addiction. The human brain continues to develop from birth until the mid-20s and is vulnerable to the effects of addictive substances. That comes from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. Frequent marijuana use during adolescence is associated with changes in the areas of the brain involved in attention, memory, decision-making, and motivation. Deficits in attention and memory have been detected in marijuana-using teens even after a month of abstinence. Marijuana can also impair learning in adolescence, and chronic use is linked to declines in IQ, school performance that jeopardizes professional and social achievements and life satisfaction. Another area of concern is legalized marijuana leads to increased youth marijuana use. Since Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and Alaska, and the District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C., legalized marijuana, use of the drug in all 5 jurisdictions has continued to rise above the national average among youth aged 12 to 17, and that is based on National Survey on Drug Use and Health that was issued in 2017. The state of Colorado currently has the highest ranking for the first-time marijuana use among youth, with a 65% increase in the years since legalization. Alaska and Oregon now lead the nation in past-year marijuana use among youth that are aged 12 to 17. So we're fooling ourselves if we believe that we can legalize this product and just claim it's going to be for adult use. Our youth are using it, are going to use it even more, and that is evidence-based data that comes from 4 other states that have legalized marijuana. Regular marijuana use is linked to academic underperformance. Regular use of marijuana in adolescents is linked to increased rates of school absence and dropout, as well as suicide attempts. Legalized marijuana results in increased drug violations at school. The last available Colorado drug violations data, which came out in the 2015-2016 school year, indicates that marijuana violations were involved in 63% of the suspensions, 73% of the referrals to law enforcement, and 58% of the expulsions. In Anchorage, Alaska, school suspensions for marijuana increased more than 141%. From 2015 to 2017 after legalization was implemented. Our youth will be using marijuana at school if we don't come up with some recommendations and processes and procedures that we can put in place. Commercialized marijuana and public safety is also another issue that is at risk. Michigan State Police data indicates that drivers tested positive of cannabinoid drugs from 2012 to 2016 more than doubled for total crashes of 2.14% and fatalities by 2% in the state of Michigan. 5 Southeast Michigan Trinity hospitals from 2017 to August of 2019, this past August, treated 14,846 patients from marijuana-related issues. And of those, 1,422, close to 10% of those individuals, were under the age of 21 years old. We have an issue, we have a pending problem that's right here in front of us that is going to impact our young people unless we come up with some solid processes and procedures to address this issue. So we have worked with the Michigan Prevention Association and other coalitions across the great state of Michigan to come up with some recommendations that we believe will limit harm. The first recommendation is placing limits on THC potency as a cornerstone of our harm reduction strategy. After years of an open use policies with cafe-style businesses, even the Dutch have placed limits on THC potency to 15% in any product, and that is reported by the BBC. Placing stringent rules, fines, penalties, and legal action against those businesses and or individuals who sell, give, or otherwise participate either knowingly or through irresponsible practices therefore should have known their participation in providing marijuana to youth under 21 years of age. The fat-soluble properties of THC and its affinity for building up in the fat cells of the brain affects learning and life success, including employability. So we must make it a very, very intense crime for anyone to sell, give, or otherwise participate in a youth obtaining and being able to utilize marijuana. A third recommendation is that we have standards for concluding impairment in under marijuana should be broad and not limited to a specific level of THC marker in the blood. There is a significantly limited time frame in which THC markers stay in the blood. At the same time, being fat soluble, there is an accumulation of THC in the brain affecting the brain functions on an ongoing basis. So therefore, we should have standards that conclude impairment under marijuana that goes beyond levels of THC markers in the blood. Our fourth recommendation, a dedication of resources to 3 public service campaigns dedicated to 1, preventing and reducing youth marijuana use, 2, health concerns of marijuana use during pregnancy and breastfeeding, and number 3, risk of driving under the influence of marijuana. The earlier youth begins using marijuana, the higher the potential of negative cognitive and developmental effects, including negative consequences for public education, of academic underperformance, and drug incidents at the school. Additionally, a woman's use during pregnancy may be associated with heart defects and or stillbirths and or developmental challenges, decreased growth, impaired cognitive function, and decreased academic ability for that child. And thirdly, traffic crashes and fatalities all significantly increase with the establishment of the marijuana business in the state of Michigan. So we must have some public campaigns of awareness and prevention that are out there to impact these 3 significant areas. 1, preventing underage usage. 2, marijuana use during pregnancy and breastfeeding. And 3, the risk of driving under the influence of marijuana. Our 5th recommendation is that smoking and vaping or other use of combustible delivery systems of marijuana be prohibited in public places, including bars and restaurants. Regarding secondhand smoke, in that the artery recovery time for exposure to 1 minute of tobacco smoke is 30 minutes, and exposure to 1 minute of marijuana smoke is 90 minutes. So we must do something to protect the public and workers in public places is a public health necessity. We've got to do something to make sure that our citizens and our youth are not impacted by secondhand marijuana smoke. Our 6th recommendation is that there be strong prohibitions on a business selling, providing, and or allowing consumption of both marijuana products and or alcohol on the business premises. The combination of alcohol and marijuana use has been shown to increase the likelihood of vehicle fatal crashes by up to 5 times. So we don't want people to be able to go to a bar and have a beer and smoke marijuana and then come out, get in their car, and attempt to drive home. Our seventh recommendation is that persons in violation of marijuana laws, to an extent, be identified as reasonable, be subject to mental health evaluations, intervention, education, and other alternative opportunities yet to be identified. Several studies have linked marijuana use to increased risk for mental illness, including psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, and anxiety. And that comes from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. Further, a study of over 9,000 adolescents found that marijuana use doubled domestic violence. So, also, a study of 6,000 men found a five-fold increase in violence when they are under the influence of marijuana. So we must have laws in place that motivate individuals who have marijuana violations to seek mental health assistance. Our eighth recommendation is that the number of marijuana-based businesses in any given community be restricted. We discovered through an environmental scan that here on the east side of Detroit, within a 22 square mile radius, there are 35 marijuana dispensaries. Under further investigation, we discovered that of those 35 marijuana dispensaries, 17 of them are not legally licensed. So we asked our law enforcement, and we know how taxed they are with the issues that they face on a daily basis, but that's when our citizens and our city councilmen and our precinct delegates can come into play, because they can identify these locations. They can check with Councilman Tate to determine if they have the appropriate licensing, and if not, they can refer these locations to law enforcement for further investigation and possible violations being placed upon them. So there's a role that each and every one of us can play, and that doesn't mean that we have to run up and kick open the door. We can be driving by in our car, use our cell phone to take a picture of that location, and then contact the appropriate authorities within City Council to determine if that location is authorized to be functioning in the role of a marijuana dispensary. And then also, our ninth recommendation is that there be appropriate labeling on all marijuana packaging and products that, one, identifies the level of potency that marijuana is, and secondly, that it has the Surgeon General's warning that marijuana use can be harmful to your health, just like the warning is on a package of cigarettes. When you go to the liquor store and you pick up a bottle of liquor, you know whether you're buying something that's 40% alcohol, you know whether it's 80 proof, you know whether it's 90 proof, or you know whether it's 151 proof, because the label indicates that. That should be the same situation with marijuana, and those labels should be correct. So as I indicated, we've worked very closely with the Michigan Prevention Association and other coalitions across the state of Michigan to come up with and identify these areas of concern and to develop the recommendations that we feel will impact and make a difference in regard to these issues. So we want you to share these recommendations and these risks with your city councilman. And if you'd like to get a copy of this document, please contact the Coalition for Urban Youth and Family Development. We can be reached on telephone at 313-340-3101. Once again, that's 313-340-3101. You can also contact us by email by sending an email to CUYFD. That's C as in coalition, U as in urban, Y as in youth, F as in family, D as in development, CUYFD at CUYFDcoalition.org. And if you send us a note, we will forward you a copy of these recommendations and risks. And we plan to share this information with Governor Whitmer and also the folks from LARA, that's the licensing and regulatory agency here in Michigan that is developing the policies that are associated with the sale, distribution, and use of marijuana across the state of Michigan. So as we prepare to go to our commercial break, we just want to once again let you know that if you'd like to get a copy of these concerns and recommendations, please call our office at 313-340-3101 or send an email request to CUYFD at CUYFDcoalition.org and share this information. We are putting together a group of individuals, of concerned citizens from here in southeastern Michigan that are attempting to set up a meeting with the governor, with Governor Whitmer, to share our concerns, to share our recommendations. There is also a group from the school superintendents across the state of Michigan, and then also the Michigan Prevention Association will be sending in a group as well. All of us planning to meet with the governor and share our concerns and our recommendations for a management of the adult use marijuana that has been approved by the voters here in the state of Michigan. So we're going to go to commercial break, and we'll be right back after this break. Thank you for watching Urban Review.
The non-medical use of prescription drugs, including opioids, is a growing concern in our communities, affecting all ages, including our youth. If the medication wasn't prescribed to you or has expired, don't take it. If your name isn't on the bottle, it's not meant for you to swallow. Addiction is real, and lives are being ruined. Or worse yet, lost.
Visit PreventionDetroit.org/opioids to find prescription Dropbox locations.
You love your Avis Ford.
You will love your Avis Ford because at Avis Ford, we make it easy to get you your no money down monthly payment right over the phone. We call it Shop by Phone, and it's the best way we know to get you your payment options fast. You want leather and a sunroof? How about an upgrade to all-wheel drive? Just give us a call.
You love it.
Shop online, shop by phone, or visit us at Telegraph at 12 Mile. Call 1-800-SHOP-FORD.
Meet Danny, high school senior, 17 years of age, all A student. Danny is just now finding out he scored 1,490 out of 1,600 on his SAT. Danny's friend decided to ask, "How did you do it?" Danny replied, "I believe every day is a test. To fail or succeed, you choose." The effects of vaping is the one test that Danny chose not to study for.
Vaping does not discriminate on who becomes addicted. Over 2 million high school students use some type of electronic cigarette device. The top tobacco companies also own vaping devices. The FDA found that vaping contains some of the same toxic chemicals as regular cigarettes that lead to cancer. So whether you smoke traditional cigarettes with tobacco or smoke electronic cigarettes using nicotine, your health is at risk. There's no safe way to smoke. For more information, contact the Center for Urban Youth and Family Development.
Welcome back, and thank you for watching Urban Review. As we get ready to come to a close of our show, we just want to wrap up with a few announcements. As you know, the month of March in 2020 is the month for good parenting. That's Parenting Awareness Month. And so I thought I'd give you 7 steps to good digital parenting. A lot of us are facing a world where our children are constantly on their mobile devices and their laptops and their iPads. And so we want to be able to do some good digital parenting. So the first tip that we have, or the first of the 7 steps, is to 1, talk with your kids. Stay calm, talk early and often, and be open and direct. Step 2, educate yourself. Search online for anything you don't understand. Try out all of the apps and the games and the sites that your children are utilizing. Try them yourself and explore the GDP tips for good parenting, digital parenting resources. Number 3, use parental controls. Activate the safety settings in your operating system, the search engine, and the games. Use the parental controls on your children's phones, on their tablets, and their game consoles, and monitor your kids' use and their screen time. Number 4, set ground rules and apply sanctions. Agree and sign a family safety contract. Set time and place limits for their tech use, and enforce those sanctions when necessary. Number 5, why don't you friend and follow, but don't stalk? Friend your kids on social media. Respect their online space and don't overdo it. And encourage your kids to create a good digital reputation, because whatever you put online will be there forever. Number 6, explore, share, and celebrate. Go online with your kids and explore their online world. Take advantage of new ways of communicating and learn from them and have fun. And number 7, be a good digital role model. Curb your own bad digital habits. Know when to unplug and show your kids how to collaborate and create online. If you sit at the dinner table and text and be online, that's not a good role model for your youth if you want them not to do those sort of things. So be a good digital role model. Just thought I'd throw that out there on how to be a good digital parent. Once again, this is the 4th Thursday of the month, and at 6:00 p.m. this evening, we will be having our Coalition for Urban Youth and Family Development meeting. We invite you to come out and be a part of our coalition. Our vision is to create a drug-free community on Detroit's west side. The meeting will take place at Hartford Memorial Baptist Church at 6:00 p.m. That's 18700 James Cousins Highway, the Lodge Service Drive, just before 7 Mile. We'll be upstairs on the 2nd floor in the Vincent Room. Please come by and be a part of our coalition and participate in our coalition. Once again, that's 18700 James Cousins Highway. That's 7 Mile in the Lodge Freeway at Hartford Memorial Baptist Church on the 2nd floor at 6:00 p.m. Please stop by and become a member of our coalition. And as I wrap things up, I would like to ask you to always remember the same things that I say at every meeting that we have on this station, and that is, remember the words that Nelson Mandela said to himself for 27 years during his captivity, to keep resilient and to keep moving forward. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods there be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud, and under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloodied but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. For it matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll, I am the captain of my fate and the master of my soul. And last but not least, when you're up against some trouble, meet it squarely face to face. Plant your feet, set your shoulder, lift your chin, and take a brace. And when the worst is bound to happen, in spite of all that you can do, you may fail, but you may conquer, so see it through. Black may be the clouds about you, and your future may seem grim, but don't let your nerve desert you. Keep yourself in fighting trim. And when it's veiled to try and dodge it, in spite of all that you can do, remember running from it will not save you, so see it through. Even hope may seem but futile when with troubles you're beset, but remember, you're simply facing what other men have met. So if you fail, fall still fighting. Don't give up whatever you do. Keep your eyes to the front, your head high to the finish, and see it through. Thank you for watching Urban Review.